Hey there, welcome back to the exam preparation for video series for SC-300, Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator. My name is Peter de Tender. I'm a lead Microsoft technical trainer here at Microsoft. This is the fourth and last episode in this series. In this episode, we'll focus on planning and automating identity governance. We will cover a few different topics. Plan and implement entitlement management using Entra ID. Plan, implement, and manage access reviews in Entra ID. Planning and implementing privileged access. And last, monitor identity activity by using logs, workbooks, and reports. Let's have a more in-depth look. If you watched previous episodes in this series, or similar episodes for other exams, you already know what to expect when you see this slide overview. It shows a list of all the different skills you may be tested on. These are sometimes referred to as may include, meaning they may or may not be on your exam. This list isn't exhaustive, and while we won't be covering every skill in this video, be sure you are able to perform these skills before taking the exam. Pause the video, grab a screenshot, you know the drill in meantime. And while this is a shorter episode from a time perspective, it doesn't mean that the list of tasks you should be familiar with for the exam is not requiring 2 slides. Let's kick it off with entitlement management and access packages here. Entitlement management refers to the process of determining and defining the consistent access a user should have to resources, specifying their rights to those resources, identifying the necessary group memberships required for resource usage, and ultimately creating a tailored package that offers these privileges to the user. The process involves creating a catalog which contains resources and access packages. From there, you assign the appropriate administrators, catalog owners, access package managers, approvers, and requesters to the catalog. Membership to catalog items is based on Entra ID security groups, Microsoft 365 groups and teams, as well as SharePoint Online sites, and it also provides access to Entra ID enterprise applications. Once the catalog is integrated with resources and access packages and permissions got put in place, become familiar with the process of access reviews. You can allow or obviously deny access to those packages for individual users, but please remember following group membership guidelines. Last, remember you can set and measure compliance activities by setting up terms of use, which the users need to accept. Which brings me to another topic here, managing the life cycle of external users and connected organizations. You allocate access packages to external users, followed by performing that recurring task of access reviews. There will be scenarios where an invited guest user no longer needs access to packages, but needs to remain a user in your Entra ID. Or you might have a connection to external connected organizations, which, for any possible reason, is no longer required. Keep an eye out for those, and obviously for the exam, know how to configure all this. Continuing on the path of access reviews, remember it's not only valid for access packages and entitlement management, but more than valid for the broader identity security perspective. First, let me remind you that this requires the Entra ID governance license option, after which you're going to perform an end-to-end access review of users, group membership, permissions, access packages, resources, Entra ID, and Azure RBAC roles. Yet another Entra ID feature that can help with optimizing access and the whole governance complexity around it is PIM, or Privileged Identity Management. This is where you consider which users have access to what kind of resources and how to manage their privileged identities effectively. Also, know that PIM provides time based and approval based role activation to really mitigate the risk of excessive, unnecessary, or maybe misused access permissions on those resources that you care about. And last, recall the ways to plan and manage Azure resources in PIM using the Add Assignments dialog box and the Setting tab in the portal, or go over similar steps using PowerShell or Azure CLI command line. As highlighted in other episodes already, follow the best practice of managing all aspects we mentioned earlier using group scope instead of individual user scope. This here goes over the different steps needed to configure groups and how their members' permissions can now also be managed by PIM. Important reminder, PIM is based on an approval process. Here are just a few screenshots of the PIM portal showcasing parts of that process, and make sure you know how to do this for the exam. On top of that, no surprise, the necessary auditing history and reporting is another item you should be really familiar with for the exam. It protects your organization by minimizing access to secure information or resources when you no longer need it. Also remember that users can manage their assigned permissions and remove them if no longer required. In this whole series of Entra ID, Identity and Access Management, there's one last account type I really need to emphasize, and that's the break glass account, also known as emergency account. These accounts should allow you to still administer most, if not everything, in your cloud environment, such as Azure and Entra ID, when all other accounts are failing. Now, to make this work, these accounts should be cloud-only accounts and use the onmicrosoft.com domain. Obviously, cloud-only means they're not having any synchronization with on-premises synchronization or federation tools. As these accounts are extremely powerful, follow the best practice of verifying what they can and cannot do, who is actually using them, over frequent intervals, like maybe monthly, quarterly, if not sooner. We're approaching about the end of this episode. A last reminder here, which counts for the full series, not just this episode, that monitoring and auditing your identity environment with everything that comes with it is crucial. Obviously, no surprise, you will get tested on several aspects of this on the exam. And while all information can be monitored from Entra ID, as well as the Azure and Microsoft 365 logs where applicable, we also know that a lot of organizations rely on monitoring and governance tools, or like SIEM solutions, outside of the Microsoft world. This is where you would configure a streaming of logs from Azure into your third-party solution using event hubs. Might be worthwhile to explore that as part of your exam studying. And with that, we're at the end of this episode. In this specific video, we revisited how to plan and implement entitlement management in Microsoft Entra. We talked about planning, implementing, and managing access reviews in Entra ID. Next, we talked about plan and implement privileged access, and closing with monitoring identity activity by using logs, workbooks, and reports. If this episode or series didn't really tell you anything new, I can say congratulations. You're most probably ready for the exam. If these videos still uncovered certain aspects of Entra ID, Identity and Access Management you don't feel like 100% confident with, that's totally fine. and actually a big reason why we create these exam prep videos in the first place. At least you know you need some additional time to prepare more or more thoroughly before you feel ready to take and pass the exam. I would like to thank you for watching our exam prep videos for SC-300, in which we covered implement and manage user identities, implement authentication and access management, plan implement workload identities, and last covered identity governance. Now that you have revisited these topics, I wish you all the very best to attempt the exam. Remember, for more information, you can visit aka.ms/sc-300-exam. And feel free to stay in touch by email petender@microsoft.com or pdtit on LinkedIn. And just let me know how it went. And by the way, have a great day.